Hi everyone, I'm Luke Williams, founder and editor of the XR Beat. Today I'm joined by Valentin Storz, Chief Revenue Officer at Varjo. We're going to look at what Ukraine's use of mixed reality says about modern defence training, how drone warfare is changing requirements, and what other high-risk industries can learn from it. Valentin, thanks so much for joining me. Let's get into it. Ukraine is using mixed reality across vehicle training, pilot training, and counter-drone preparation. What does that tell you about where modern defense training is heading?
So, first of all, thank you for having me, Luke. A real pleasure to be on. The world has changed, war has changed, and so the need of training has changed. And it's not only about having the capabilities, that might be drones or tanks or anti-drone stuff. It's the operators that you need to have and the people that need to defend against the new threats. And the enhanced trainings requirements, new scenarios, faster changes are an excellent fit for what we are providing with mixed reality.
Yeah. And would you say that militaries, in your experience, are starting to treat XR technology as normal training infrastructure, or are programs still mainly driven by sort of specific operational needs?
Well, both is true. And I would say they are earlier adapters and faster movers, which is typically the United States. You can see that in the United States, everything is 2-3 years ahead of Europe. Mm-hmm. But Europe is picking up fast as the normal defense investment in Europe is picking up faster. And we can dissect it down a little bit more to domains. What you can see clearly is that in the air domain, also given the past history, virtual and mixed reality training have the highest penetration or in this segment. The new things that we are seeing that are growing rapidly are drone and anti-drone training, counter-UAS, JTAC, joint fire applications, and ground systems, as well as heavy weapons and artillery.
And just to pick up on that point about drone warfare, it has changed incredibly quickly since the start of the Ukraine war, particularly. How is that changing what soldiers need to train for, and how often does the training content that they consume need to change to keep up with the need?
Well, your last line of defense against a drone is yourself and probably a shotgun or a rifle. So everyone in the field needs to be able to counter a drone on the last meters. I think this is something that needs to be implemented in every basic training of every soldier. Everybody needs to be able to defend against this threat. That's number one. Another thing is, if you look at militaries as a factory, you have the resource of untrained people that you put into the factory, and then you have your infrastructure, your trainers, your processes. And on the other hand, your output is trained soldiers for certain scenarios or against new threats. And this capacity is limited or stationary. So you want to increase the output of the factory without building many new stations or bases, without having a significant amount of new trainers being available just now, without compromising on the quality of training. Then mixed reality actually becomes a solution where you can use your existing factory much more efficient, and you can also make your existing factory mobile, because a training center, let's say a pilot training center or drone pilot training center, that is stationary can become an easy target for first attack.
Yeah, okay. And I think I heard Varjo talk about limited access to vehicles and safe places to train in Ukraine. So where can mixed reality reduce dependence on the real asset, and where does physical training still remain essential?
So there's no black and white. And training can start with a pen and paper in a classroom, where you learn procedures, you understand how a vehicle works. There is the other extreme, which is live training. You drive a tank, you use the gun, you operate a drone, or you shoot down drones in real life. So those are the both extremes. Both has advantages and counter advantages. So live training obviously is the best what you can do in terms of how realistic the training is and how effective the training is. But it's cost intensive. You also want to train as you fight. That means you don't have vehicles standing around you can use for training because they're all in the mission. And you're limited by the number of vehicles you have. Mm-hmm. So on the other hand, you can scale classroom training, but the learning effect is minimal if somebody is learning on a pen and paper. So we believe that you have to touch something in order to really learn. And then we come to the middle ground, which is mixed reality training. One example you can read about is the case where Find Reality is delivering procedural trainers to the Ukraine armed forces, where soldiers can train on vehicles before they actually go into them the first time. Mm-hmm. Therefore, you can optimize the actual piece of the live training. Another very interesting and growing exercise is the topic not on base training or specialized training, but mission rehearsal. Mission rehearsal means you could use live data from satellites or drones or other intelligence, build a synthetic mission and train the mission 10 times. Optimize the results, optimize the strategies, and therefore optimize the success rate of the mission.
Hmm. And of course, defense buyers ultimately will want evidence. So what outcomes do customers actually measure when they're assessing mixed reality training in this field?
Yes, so one of the most pregnant studies is from the US Air Force, and it's publicly available. Many thousand flight hours of undergraduate pilot training. And basically, it's more than 50% faster to wings. So wow. Meaning you can decrease the time until somebody becomes effective. So that is, I think, the key feature that we're having. Combined with performance metrics like, and I'm quoting the air domain because this is the most elaborated segment and the most intensive training segment that currently exists. You might have a dome simulator, full dome simulator, projectors around you, costing 10 to 20 million. And you can have similar results from mixed reality simulator that costs 10% and that uses 10% of the space, and that you potentially could put into a container and load it on a truck and drive it to the point of need.
Do you have any other customer feedback examples you could share? I'm just quite interested.
Yeah, I mean, the empirical data that I can share is quite limited. I can quote a case study together with our partner Ray from Ireland with the Irish Defence Forces, where it's vehicle training with optimized human performance evaluation, and that allows to increase the effectiveness of an instructor times 4, meaning while an instructor past could train one crew, 3 people. Now with the optimized system and additional feedback, one instructor can train 4 crews. So that means you can increase the output, you can decrease the cost, and you get it mobile. So that's the key values that we're doing. Basically providing mission critical training better, smarter, and faster.
Okay, and I noticed on the subject of training as well, and particularly flight training, I noticed that Varjo has now been involved in EASA qualified flight training systems. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. So the the civil aviation side is regulated in the United States by the FAA, and then in Europe by the EASA, and local countrywide organizations. And essentially, it's about how to increase flight safety. And our headsets are the first that are integrated in qualified simulators. What does a qualified simulator mean? It's qualified by the authorities, so you can do certain flight trainings on it and basically clock hours as a pilot. While the highest grade is the full flight simulator, up to level D. Then the level below is a flight training device. This is where mixed reality is used widely. And the flight training devices, you can look at our website. There's one with a company Reiser from Germany that is pre-qualified for an Airbus 145 with 2 pilots on FTD level 3. And in the United States, the company TrueSim is helicopter simulators that are qualified in mixed reality for FAA FTD level 7, the highest FTD levels in both scales. And we believe that also in the civilian space, there are significant advantages in terms of footprint, in terms of efficiency, in terms of cost per hour that you actually can do. Obviously, we will not by tomorrow replace all the dome simulators that are there, but we can provide a very good add-on to that. For example, the cockpit, and very often you have dome simulators with slide-in cockpits that you can change by the type ratings. You could use this cockpit while it's standing next to the dome simulator, equip it with mixed reality, and train. Because the challenge also in the civilian flight industry is a shortage of pilots. So, and in order to reduce the shortage of pilots, you also have to improve the efficiency of the pilot training factories as you wish. And mixed reality is a great tool to increase this effectiveness. And what we learn from the process is there's demanding requirements from FAA and EASA. And at the moment, only the Varjo XR4 Focal Edition has good enough quality, both in virtual reality resolution as well as in video pass-through resolution, that it can be qualified by those authorities.
Yeah, really interesting, Valentin. Looking outside of defence and aviation now, what kind of high-risk civilian sectors would you say are closest to having similar conditions that might make mixed reality training attractive?
Yeah, I mean, the obvious next segment is law enforcement or protection of critical infrastructure, blue light systems. So all the police forces in Europe have now the challenge how to work on counter-drone scenarios. So, and there are different requirements. So you cannot just take a shotgun and shot down a drone that is flying over a crowded area. So there are other measures necessary, but the training needs are there as well. Like you have a new threat, and you need to train immediately. And building up training infrastructure just takes time. So there are interesting, new, innovative companies that are pushing for that. And we believe with all the knowledge that this is basically the next field. Could be also firefighters. Everywhere where there's a high stakes scenario, where actually the use of our technology is helping to save lives. And why is that so important? Because, well, we have a price set that is higher than most other mixed reality competitors, but also our level of performance is much higher. in terms of resolution, but also in terms of solution building together with the customer. So we are not only providing a headset and letting then somebody good luck for success, we're helping them to be successful. Whenever it's also about safety of the data, because this is one of our key advantages, that we don't send data around the world, we don't store data in the headset. It's all clean and safe. And we have two lines of headset. One is our business line and one is our secure headline. And the business line is produced by a contract manufacturer. The secure line we produce in our own facility in Finland by our own people. And that's in particular now required by the military customers.
Been really interesting, Valentin, to learn about Varjo and obviously XR technology within the defense sector. So from a very final question now, I'll ask you to speculate again. Looking, let's say, 3 years ahead, where will the sector be and how will warfighting have changed due to XR technology?
Yeah, thanks, Luke, for the chance being here. It's always difficult to make predictions, in particular over the future. But I can tell you what we are doing. We are working closely with NATO military customers as well as civil aviation customers in understanding how training can become more effective and what solution we can provide for that. And we are actively going out. That means the adoption rates will pick up, so we can see similar amounts of mixed reality training happening in other domains: land, heavy weapons artillery, counter-UAS, and that will allow militaries to train more people better and faster, and basically helping them to come to their defined output goal when it comes to qualified military personnel.
Well, that's all I had for you today, Valentin. Thank you so much for your time. It's been really interesting to speak to you and hear the Varjo story as well and your opinions on where the sector's going. So we'll say goodbye for today. And again, thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Luke. It was a real pleasure.